All right. Hi, everyone on YouTube. YouTube temporarily blocked my. I got a message that YouTube temporarily blocked the live stream because the video that I was showing you was copyrighted. So I was trying to figure out. I just logged off and I logged on again because I want to make sure you could see me. I wasn't sure what was going on because I tried to watch myself and it was just like temporarily unavailable, but it says that people could watch. But anyway, that's a great video. His enthusiasm is contagious. He made me think I wanted something I didn't want, you know? He's great. He's just like, he could sell ice to an Eskimo. Like, I was just like, brain chip all the way. Let's go. No. But that's how I'm gonna be introduced. You're gonna get someone like that who gets you going and who's like, yeah, you want this, and you're like, take my money, put this chip in my head. At least I'm not gonna say that, but if you're like if you're the kids out here, or if you're like the other people out here who don't know what's going on, they're gonna fall for that. Like even I was enthusiastic about it because his energy and the way he delivered. Just like I said, he could sell ice to a freaking Eskimo. Like, you like watching him, you liked hearing him. He made it all so exciting. He's enthusiastic. Like, it was great. But he made some really scary stuff seem like the coolest thing on earth, So I wanted to show that. One, because of the delivery. That delivery is great. He did a great job with that delivery. He can sell that thing like nobody's business. Out of all the videos I've watched, his was it, That's like an infomercial quality, brain chip seller right there. And that's what it's probably going to be like when the brain chip comes out, and all this technology comes out. They're going to get someone like him who knows who knows how to sell stuff, who knows how to make people enthusiastic about it. And he's going to do his job and do a job at it. But you have to go watch that video. I didn't know that was going to happen. That's something new. I'm not trying to infringe anyone's copyrights. This is all like, we're doing this for illustration purposes and for like, educational purposes. But that's the video. Go and watch it after this. And let's see. So let's get back to that. If it happens again with another video that we listen to, just know I'm going to sign off and then I'll just sign back on, who knows? And we'll just do it like that until I figure something else out. But so now back to the regularly scheduled program without all the technical difficulties. All right. So that guy, he's not a TI. He's not talking about gang stalking, but the things he described sound similar to what the TIs have been describing. Now, notice that he said the things he mentioned can and will happen. I don't know if you missed that. Because on YouTube, go back and watch. He keeps saying it will happen, it can happen, it will happen. It's not a matter of if, okay? It's gonna happen. And which is funny because that reiterates what Delgado said. If you watched the Delgado Temporary Book Club and you went and saw the videos about Delgado, he says things like, this can't be stopped, it's gonna happen. And he was right. It's happening, right? I think what the grandparents back who said, no, we're not having this in the public outcry, what they did, they didn't really, how do you say, they slowed down the progress, but they didn't stop the progress of things like the brain chip and neuroscience and stuff. So, he's saying it will happen. He said it will happen. That's where we are going. He said that a lot. I don't know if anybody on YouTube got to see that, but like I said, go watch the video. And I have been urging the general public to talk about these types of things, and it seems that I'm not the only one. I have watched videos of the tech nerds practically begging other developers to understand what they are creating and how that will impact the future. I'm doing my part by urging the general public to join the discussion. Don't just wait for this new device and the advertisements that's going on. Don't just wait for this new device and the advertisement that's going to tell you all the benefits. Notice that he said that it will be possible for a hacker to steal you. It cut off on YouTube. You didn't get to see that part, but at the end, he goes into how hackers. Well, when you watch the video, he goes into how hackers, if you have the brain chip, if people could hack into your phone right now and your computer right now, they're going to be able to hack into your brain. And if this brain chip is controlling everything you do, your senses, your life experience, then that person could hack into you. Like they're practically like stealing you, and it's scary. And he says that. I'm not exaggerating it. Those were, I think, I don't want to say those are exact words, but I think, no, he did say they can steal you. Those are his exact words. So, so that was a really scary part. But like I said, with his delivery, you kind of like overlook all that. Or you're like, oh, no, they're going to, when they get out this device, they're going to take care of that. No one's going to be able to steal me, So most of the things that he described, Delgado did back in the early 1970s, if you were there for the temporary book club, by now, like when you're watching these brain videos and if you're like doing your own little research, not little research, but if you're doing your own research and, about this brain stuff, like you're probably like, oh wow, that's what Delgado did. That's how I was like when I looked into for more information. I was like, oh my gosh, that's Delgado's work, and it wasn't just Delgado who was doing the research at that time. He's just one of the researchers that I use his books for the temporary book club. A lot of researchers were doing this at that time. So if you hear me saying Delgado's because the book was part of the temporary book club, but a lot of researchers were doing that kind of work. So his type of research. So all that stuff all he's saying was practically already done, except for the monkey controlling the wheelchair with his mind. So a good question is, since, he's mentioning things that were done before, a good question is, if MK Ultra ended, when did it end? And then you could be like, of course MK Ultra ended. Okay, the government stopped it whenever they say they did. I didn't even bother looking at the date. Okay, so MK Ultra ended, the government stopped it. The government said, okay, this operation's over. We're not doing it. Okay, so the next question is, okay, MK Ultra ended, but did MK Ultra ended, but did research similar to MK Ultra end? And if it did end, when did it end? I made a video asking if Delgado's type of research continued. I showed some research and devices that were similar to Delgado's research and some of his devices. There was even a book that described a female patient who had a deep brain stimulator around 1986. Delgado's research was in 1970. And she self-stimulated for sexual pleasure, same as a patient in Delgado's experiment. And even though Delgado's book was written in 1970s, all that research took place way before then. I think they were doing that research in the 1940s, 1950s, and then finally they started getting like really good results and stuff, and then they published in 1970s. So whenever you see a book or a paper published at that time, there's years of research behind it. So it's not that, oh my God, they found this that year and they published. No, it took a while for the most part. But anyway, I'm digressing a little bit. Okay, so I showed some research and devices that were similar to Delgado's research and some of his devices. There was even a book, okay, I already read that. And then there was a more recent account of a guy who could adjust the level of his anxiety by pushing a button. And the video I'm talking about I think it is called Did Delgado's Research Continue? And if you don't know what I'm talking about now, just watch that video and you'll know what I'm talking about. So there was a more recent account of the guy who could adjust the level of his anxiety by pushing a button. Also, one of the same things described in Delgado's book. Delgado, I think one of the sentences I read was that he said, wow, it was just amazing to sit there, and he had a female patient. I think he was just increasing and decreasing her anxiety just by turning a knob, and he was even shocked like that could happen, or something like that. It was either a female patient or one of his male patients. It was one of his patients. So after all that, and that I think the guy research was more recently, maybe in the 1990s or something. I don't know. That guy, the guy who could control his anxiety level, that was more recent than the 1986 one. So putting that all together, so when did experiments that were similar to Delgado stop, even after the public outcry? When did it stop? From what I have shown you, those type of research didn't stop. So here is this guy, and he is a legitimate tech nerd, or he's either an investor or tech nerd, I'm not sure. And he's telling other tech nerds about the upcoming brain chip and all that it will do. He described a whole new world where people will have brain chips implanted in their head. He's not a conspiracy theorist. This is not someone, he's not a conspiracy theorist. This is someone who is in the industry that is currently developing the device. So the brain chip is coming. Let's talk about how the brain chip got so far. The basic steps of research are that you make a hypothesis about something, you do experiments, studies, come to a conclusion, and develop a new device or idea. It is general knowledge that the military and some private businesses are years ahead of the public researchers. So I'm not saying it's the government. I'm not saying it isn't the government. And I'm not saying it's only the government. Big businesses have a lot of interest in this type of technology. You can look at Palin's video about the surveillance economy, which was a podcast from another show, but all that's on there, about the surveillance economy. And I think it's called the surveillance economy, to find out more. So this whole brain chip thing, you know, it could be cults, it could be churches, it could be anybody, or it could be a combination of anybody's, you know? And then the thing you also need to, so I can't like pinpoint one person, and I think that's why there's such a diversity. Like if you talk to a TI, like one of the things that they say to discredit TIs, oh, they don't know who it is. They think it's the government, then they think it's cults and blah, blah, blah. Well, you know, it could be anyone at this point because there's a lot of people who have an interest in this. And then I don't want to get into that right now, but that's a totally different video. But that's probably like a lot of reasons why there's like such a vast opinion about who's involved or who's responsible for this. So it also takes years of research and experimenting to get a device ready for the market. So the experiments are one of the most important parts of the research. They had to experiment to get the brain chip to work. They experimented on monkeys, but that would only give limited information on how it will work on humans. They were able to conduct human experiments by researching therapies for people who lost control of a limb. However, something like the brain chip, the gold standard, however, for something like the brain chip, the gold standard would be to experiment on people in their normal environment. The brain chip is not going to sell or wow anyone if people have to stay at home and plugged into some computer to use it. Let's get to the point. They experimented on people, healthy people. Okay, they had to have experimented on people for many years to get this far with the brain chip. Paralyzed people are a start, but for this type of thing, you need to experiment on people who aren't paralyzed. Where did they get these unparalyzed people to experiment on for years and years in order to develop a brain chip? Of course, some people were willing to get more advanced information. Of course, some people were willing, but to get more advanced information, you need a diverse group and a lot of people to create this type of brain mapping. To create some kind of brain mapping. I'm sorry, something happened on TalkShoe. I'm trying to figure out what it is. Go to dashboard. Okay, they told me that I logged on from a different device. You joined from another device and have been removed. You have been removed from this conference because you joined on a different device. You can only join the conference from one place at a time. Okay, that's weird. So if you're watching on TalkShoe, it's been cut off because I supposedly joined from a different device. That's weird. So if you're watching, okay, so let me see if I'm still on YouTube. All these technical difficulties. Whoa. All right, so I got to find out how to log back on YouTube because people don't like this episode. Go figure. Okay, so I have to, how could I join from a different device on TalkShoe? All right, so let me see. I'm just going to cut that show out. Okay, so YouTube, while you were down, I was telling TalkShoe how I need to log on to YouTube, and now I'm telling YouTube how I need to log back on to TalkShoe. All right, somebody doesn't like my show today. Okay, let me just try to log back on to TalkShoe, and then see how that goes. And this was going to be a short episode, but all this BS, right?
You are joining the online studio. You are unmuted and can speak with the host.
Okay, so now I'm back on TalkShoe. All right, let me see. All right, so if TalkShoe, for anyone who's watching me on TalkShoe kicked me off because it said that I was logging on to said that I was trying to log on to 2 different devices. There's someone else on with me at TalkShoe, so if you're playing around, TalkShoe's let me know what you're doing. So and if it's not you, then ignore that. But yeah, so if you're on TalkShoe, I got kicked off because they said I tried to log on with a different device. There's another person on TalkShoe with me. I don't know what this person's doing. It keeps showing up the screen of a Stephanie Bailey, but I'm not sure what's going on at all. All right, I don't know. It says you're dialed in, so I don't know what happened or why it's telling me that I dialed in somewhere else. All right, so if this person who's on TalkShoe, if you are trying to talk to me, maybe you should just use the chat instead of dialing in because it's not working. I don't have any way of talking to you. They're not showing me any buttons. A screen is coming up with your name on it, but otherwise, it's not giving me anything else to talk to. Hello? Hello? I just heard something. All right, it says you're dialed in. If you are talking, whoever this person is on TalkShoe, I can't hear you. I just heard something very slightly. Maybe for now you want to use the chat option because I don't know, it's not working. I have no way. It says you're unmuted and could talk, but I don't hear anything coming from you. And it says you dialed in, and that's all I see. But yeah, so if you want to say something on TalkShoe, just use a chat. Maybe then it'll let you get through. So where was I? All these technical difficulties. Oh yeah, so they experimented on people. Okay, no technical difficulty so far. All right, so I'm gonna go. Let's get to the point. They experimented on people. They had to have experimented on people for many years to get this far with the brain chip. Paralyzed people are a start, but for this type of thing, you need to experiment on people who aren't paralyzed. Where did they get these unparalyzed people to experiment on for years and years in order to develop a brain chip? Of course, some people were willing, but to get more advanced information, you need a diverse group and a lot of people to create this type of brain map. To create this type. Okay, of course, some people are willing, but to get more advanced information, you need a diverse group and a lot of people to create this type of brain mapping. Okay, so where do TIs fit in? Well, as you know, TIs are a group of people that have been complaining that someone has been covertly experimenting on them for years. I'll give you a minute to think about that. So, as of now, in 2020, putting 2 and 2 together still gives you 4, okay? I'm not asking you to agree with my conclusion. And you can come to your own conclusion. It's a free country so far. It's still a free country, and you can come to your own conclusion. You could agree, you don't agree, that's fine. But this whole thing with TIs fits into the brain chips development. I'm not saying the researchers in the videos that I've shown or are about to show or whatever, if you get to see them, at least if you get to see them when I show them, I'm not saying that their research specifically experimented on TIs, and I'm not saying that in general, I'm not saying that. All I'm saying that in general, maybe TIs aren't crazy. Maybe someone somewhere was experimenting on this group of people. It's not an absurd conclusion or impossible when you consider how research is done and how new devices or even ideas are developed. Usually when a device is researched, more than one research group is working on it. I'm not saying that all TIs who claim to be experimented on got a chip implant, although some claim they did. Some may have been experimented on by different methods. Experiments could have happened remotely or without an implant. Smart Dust gives many options to conduct covert experiments. It's possible to get useful information for brain chip research without implanting brain chips. They need the brain mapping. So with the brain mapping, you just slap something on someone's head, you turn on that stuff and you get something on a screen. Okay, don't laugh at me, people who do the research. I'm just making it really simple. Okay, so I know it's not that simple, but I'm just making it simple. And that's all information that can apply to developing something like the brain chip. You need the brain mapping, especially of a person who's healthy. So, I'm not pointing to any specific research group as one that could have done covert human experimentation. I'm only saying it is possible that could have happened here in the good old US of A or internationally. When a research group experiments and gets information, they can share the information informally. They could talk to each other, meet for coffee, blah, blah, blah. Or they could write a research paper to get the information out. They could get published, I can see how that kind of field experiment can work. The gang stalkers are the prototype or some sort of control group, right? And the TIs are the resistant subjects, the ones that the device doesn't seem to work too well on. The audience is the majority who this device will be sold to and used on. So once the audience is the majority of those, the audience is the majority who this device will be sold to and used on once the kinks are worked out. So some gang stalkers were tricked into becoming the prototype, but some probably were all for it. Listening to him describe the benefits of the brain chip and how everyone will have it soon could make someone want to get it. You're like, okay, he's selling you something that you don't want. Well, at least some of us, right? I'm going to show you a video of people who voluntarily became cyborgs. These are a group of people. There are also groups of people out there that say they can use meditation to look through someone else's eyes or getting someone's dreams. I saw some videos about that too. The thing that cracked me up, I saw a video. There's a video titled "How to Get into Your Friend's Dream," and then the guy goes into how you do some kind of meditation, and then you see your friend lying there, and then you go to the third eye or something, and then you take your friend's soul, and then you go in your dream. I don't want you as a friend if you're going to sit there and try to take my soul, okay? And what the heck are you doing trying to get in my dreams? I mean, are you serious? Is this how you treat your friend? You take their souls just to get in their dreams? Why don't you just call them up and talk to them? There's FaceTime. You don't need to harass your friends like that. And they have videos on it, and they're just talking about it oh yeah, this is how you get your friend's dreams. You just go take their souls and hop right into their dreams. Seriously, if you're my friend, talk to me. I'll tell you what I dreamt about. No, unless it's something private. It's just and he just, I don't know. These people say it's the most benign thing. I don't want you as a friend if you're going to do that. All right, I went off. Okay, so back to this. So there are all types of new age and spiritual groups that will eat this stuff up, I mean, I'm into spirituality and meditation and everything like that. I don't do that much anymore since this thing happened because I know a lot more now than I did. And I could just see a spiritual group, and I'm not saying all spiritual groups are bad or do this and stuff. But I can see a spiritual group selling this. Like, this is going to take you to the next level. And you know what? It is going to take you to the next level. You're going to do things like he said in the Bible and in most religious texts. What they're doing is what was described in most religious texts. But the difference between that, you know, before you take that at face value, in most religious texts, we kind of do it through some kind of like spiritual development, you know, not through mechanics or electronics. So before you fall for that part, like, yeah, of course, we're in line with God, we're in line with nature and spirituality, we're taking it to where we should be. But the way spirituality and religion goes into it is a bit different than how science is going into it. So don't fall for that, you know. And I'm not putting any value on either, but I think it's the same goal, but it's okay. It's the same goal, but two different paths to the same goal. Okay. And you have to decide which path you want to take. So I think spirituality and science in that and how he described it, they are the same goal. Being able to transcend your body, being able to, you know, do all that good stuff, you know, ESP. That's what he was describing, ESP. But the way you go about it could be different. So, you know, I already said that. All right, so there are all these types of new age and spiritual groups that will eat the stuff up. I'm not saying all these people are gang stalkers or involved. I'm giving examples of how you can sell a brain chip or get someone to let you map their brain. It's weird how everything that is being offered is everything that people can do without a device. It's called ESP and spiritual development. Maybe nature made sure people who had these advanced capabilities were able to use them responsibly by making it hard to develop. By making it hard to develop. Maybe nature made sure people who had these advanced capabilities were able to use them responsibly by making it hard to develop. So you have to go through some development stages before you get to ESP. Some people are just born with it. I don't know why, you know, maybe somehow they are advanced, but there's some advancement, you have to get advanced before you develop it. You have to get some kind of awareness in most spiritual texts or most spiritual groups before you get to that level, you know. And you know, last TI hour, you saw what happened to Dorian, who gave into every temptation and walked on the dark side. If he had ESP, could you imagine what could have happened? Maybe some people aren't spiritually or morally mature enough to have those capabilities. The reason being that it could be heaven, where everyone is free to develop as she or he pleases and respects others' rights to develop freely, or it can be hell, where one person or one group of people wants to control everyone else and probably use people as they please. If people like the psychopath next door, Harry, are in control, you can see how much harm that can do. And I'll leave it at that. So the next few videos, if you can see them, if I'm not temporarily blocked off, are about people who actually want to be cyborgs. I'm going to give you the link. I'm going to give you the link to the video. If they cut me off, I'll just sign off and come back. So that's the link to the video. That way you can watch it on your own. You know, maybe I can't play it, but you can watch it. And okay. So this one's interesting. So like I said, YouTube, if they cut me off, I'll come back. Talk to you if they cut me off, I'll come back. I'll be back, you know? So here. Let's see.
When you start with one sense, you want to have more. And that's what cyborgism gives me. It gives me ability to go beyond my 5 senses.
Mohsen Minai is a geophysicist. He's also a cyborg.
Cyborgism is just like a human being with additional ability that he has gained through technology. Carry small things like paperclip. The first thing I put in my body was a chip. I put it here, and it gives the temperature of my body.
But it's this little device on his chest, attached with piercings, that Mohsen is most excited about right now.
It's a small chip on my chest that vibrates whenever I face north.
It's called North Sense, and about 300 people around the world have one.
That simple buzz is the magic.
That's Liviu Babitz. He invented it. He also wears one.
Every time I turn north, maybe you can hear it.
You could call him a body hacker. These are people who use technology, things like microchips, magnets, or batteries, to enhance themselves by embedding it in their bodies. Like this employee at a company where people have chip implants that can unlock doors and start the copy machine. But Liviu says North Sense is something different. Knowing which way is north all the time is a nice enhancement, but that's not the point here. He believes adding an extra sense to the body will change how the brain works.
The North Sense creates in the brain what we would call neural pathways. So instead of my reality being built from X number of elements, now it's X plus 1 number of elements that I understand reality by.
And there's precedent for this.
The brain is amazing. It's plastic.
That's Adrian Payarsh, and he's a neuroscientist at McGill University. He says the brain has an amazing way of molding itself to new experiences. And to understand this, he points to a 2011 study of London cab drivers. To drive one of the city's famous black taxis, drivers have to memorize 25,000 streets. It's a notoriously difficult task. And according to this study, it actually changed their brains.
So they tested these subjects in MRI, and yes, indeed, their hippocampus is bigger because they've trained again and again, and this is what they do every day to navigate in this big city, and the hippocampus actually just get bigger because it needs more connection. It's working more.
Adrian thinks North Sense could change the brain too.
Do we have any other task here?
Perhaps with North Sense, you'll actually become more aware of how you can navigate by yourself without any external help. Doing this will be a good training for your brain. The more you use your brain, very generally, the later neurodegenerative disease will start.
It's too early to know how North Sense is changing the brains of users. So Liviu is working with researchers at 3 London universities to first learn how wearing North Sense can begin to change behavior.
You click on that and
There's even a simple test they came up with and tried it on Liviu, who's been wearing his for a year and a half. They blindfolded Liviu and then spun him around.
We would ask him to return to the point of origin.
And that point of origin wasn't always north either.
This was quite astonishing to see how accurately he could always return to the point of origin. And we tested this with a number of non-North Sense users, and they all were totally useless.
They hope to run the test on more North Sense users to see if it's really helping their sense of direction. For Mohsen, he says he feels effects that can't be quantified.
I have started learning piano. The keyboard is in the room, and it's towards north, actually. And whenever I start playing in some chords, like C chords, I try to move my body so North Sense vibrates. It has added another layer of information to piano playing. It's very beautiful, actually. It makes you want to see more. It makes you want to know more.
Okay. So that's one of the videos. It's a device, from what I'm getting, that makes you know where north is. And here's another one. I'm gonna post this link for you so you can go watch it. Like, again, if I get cut off, I'll just come back. That's it. But here's the link to the video in case I get cut off. So you can watch it later. And really, go and watch these videos. Seriously. Because I think they're interesting. All right, so here's the next video.
My name is Neil Harbison, and I'm one of the founders of the Cyborg Foundation. And I'm a cyborg. To us, a cyborg is a feeling. It's feeling that you're not using technology, that you're not wearing technology. It's feeling that you are technology.
Neil Harbison was born completely colorblind. And while Neil still can't see color, a device called the Cyborg allows him to hear and sense colors.
It picks up the dominant color in front of me, and then it transposes this frequency of light into the frequency of sound. So it's related to the frequency of light. It's not an arbitrary relation. This light frequency has a specific note, which is the note that I hear, but a few octaves lower, so that it's in the audible range.
Neil has been able to hear color through bone conduction since 2004, when he convinced a doctor to anonymously perform a drastic surgery.
My head was drilled 4 times so that I could have the antenna integrated. So it goes inside my skull. So I actually feel cyborg. I feel that even if I touch the antenna, I feel it's like a part of my body. It really feels like a new body part. There's no way of removing it. So it's just like other animals, they have antennas. I decided that I would have an antenna as well.
Neil says the Cyborg has expanded his senses beyond normal human capability.
I decided to include infrared colors and ultraviolets, which are invisible to the human eye, but that they can be perceived through our third eyes. And then once this became normal, I didn't see why I should only perceive the colors that I have in front of me. So I decided to have Bluetooth so I could receive colors from other places of the planet.
Neil isn't the only cyborg on this planet. Professor Kevin Warwick implanted a chip in his arm in 1998.
A radio frequency identification device.
Entrepreneur Emil Grafstra, with RFID chips in each of his hands, can unlock his car or computer with a single wave. His company, Dangerous Things, sells do-it-yourself body hacking kits. Some gamers are in on the action too, using brain stimulators to gain superhuman focus. Bionics researcher Michael McAlpine sees this type of technology advancing into the mainstream.
You know, up till now, I think most people have thought of bionics as people who have impaired capabilities like lost sight, giving them the ability to repair those capabilities. But going forward, I think there is the possibility if you can do that, then you can also take that to the next step and actually give normal human advanced capabilities that biology never gave them, and perhaps let them do what maybe only certain animals can do, or maybe let them do what no one can do.
Neil Harbison's experience shows how quickly technology is transforming culture.
Social reaction has changed over the years. So in 2004, people thought it was a light. Later, people started to think it was a microphone. 2006, I think they thought it was for chatting. Then in 2009, people started to think it was a hands-free phone. So they thought it was a new telephone. Now people think it's something to do with Google Glass. So it's changed over the years. Now people think that I'm actually filming them, which is creates uncomfortable situations. So I'm thinking of changing the image, and I might just move the sensor down so that it creates less confrontation with people that might think that I'm actually filming them. But I'm sure that in 2-3 years, people will think it's something else. It keeps changing.
Although some people still don't know how to react to the antenna, times are changing.
I think we are now entering the age of transition into cyber, so we'll see more wearable technology becoming accepted and normalized. Once wearing technology becomes something normal, we'll start seeing the transition into implanting the technology. People will start accepting this more. So in the 20s, the late 20s, we'll see more and more projects with new body parts and new senses. And I believe that in the 40s, it will be normal to have technology implanted. So it will be normal to merge humans and technology and to unite cybernetics and organisms. I'm sure it will be normal to meet someone and ask, what are your extra senses and what's your new body part?
So that's interesting. So there's no value judgment on these people. It's their body. You can do whatever you want to your body if this is what you want, you know, as long as they're not hurting anyone or getting hurt themselves. So I'm not putting any judgment value. I'm not judging them or anything like that. I just want to show you that there are people who want this. There's people out there who would love to get the brain chip. There are people out there who implant themselves with, who want to become cyborgs. So there are people who will volunteer to get the brain chip. Not everyone will be against it. And if you are against it, don't be surprised when others will fight to get the brain chip. And it sounds strange, but that's the reality of it. The next video shows what could be the next phase of the brain chip. after the original is launched, or it will probably be a more expensive brain chip if both come out at the same time. So I don't know if they're gonna block this one or not. Yeah, let's see if they'll block this one. And then if they do, like I said, I'll just sign off and sign back on. Gosh, isn't that weird how this is happening live? I hear like this happening to TIs and stuff. So it's weird that this is happening to me. All right, so nothing, I'm not saying anything against YouTube or TalkShoe. It's just weird how that went down. Okay, so here is the next video, and let me give you the link. Like I said, if I get cut off, I'll come back. What happened to my video? Hold on. Okay, here it is. I have too many screens up. Okay.
You like science fiction?
This one's kind of boring. I'm not gonna lie to you, but listen.
I love sci-fi. And what it taught me in the past 15 years, that connecting some heroic brain to a machine should really be a no-brainer. Remember The Matrix? Neo gets a few scary-looking plugs shoved directly into the neat sockets of his brain. And then, from the comfort of his chair, from a hovercraft, he can navigate the complex environment of a matrix using nothing but his mind. And if you thought that that was not hard enough, just imagine that broadband Wi-Fi receiver on that hovercraft to transport his entire brain to the matrix. But most recently, the Avatar. Jake Sully gets cocooned into an MRI-looking tube, and then from the comfort of that tube, using nothing but his mind, again, he can pilot an avatar, 10-foot-tall blue humanoid that inhabits wild alien jungle, which also somehow has broadband Wi-Fi. So basically, over and over, science fiction relies on being able to connect some heroic brain to a machine in order to think and thus to act. But that's science fiction. Here is science fact. Forget about wiring the entire brain. We cannot even wire an arm to an amputee. But what do I really mean? We have seen those beautiful arms. Some of you might even have them, all degrees of freedom, the articulated fingers. But guess what? Those fingers can't feel. An amputee equipped with this arm cannot feel a strong handshake. Neither can they feel a difference between a soft, fuzzy peach or a smooth, fragile egg. You think it's a hard problem. You don't look surprised. You should be. Think about our electronics. Transistors in your iPhone are about 1/5000th of a hair. Neurons in your brain are about 1/5. Transistor can do billions of operations per second. A neuron can do only about 100. So how come we cannot connect something so small and so fast as a transistor to something so big and so slow as a neuron? Here's a catch. A transistor has 3 connections. A neuron can support over 6,000 synapses. As engineers, we are trying to connect to this mess. What you see behind me is a state-of-the-art, commercially available deep brain stimulation implant. If you were a Parkinson's patient that stopped responding to medication, this is what you would get. As you are sitting completely awake, a doctor will drill 2 holes in your skull through which they will feed millimeter thick, 3-inch long wires directly into your head. Through those wires, we will apply voltages between 1 and 10 volts, which is about 100 times more than what's used by your neurons for communication. And that's the therapy. And even with this technology that looks rather crude and actually dates to 1800s, we have pretty promising results.
Wow.
In fact, you may know that deep brain stimulation can relieve some of the Parkinson's patients, restore motor control, reduce tremors. The question is, at what cost? At the same time, the same stimulation can change someone's personality from a workaholic to a slacker, turn them into an unstoppable gambler, a very common side effect, by the way. It can give people an incurable depression. Well, those side effects should not be so surprising, because if what you see behind me were the neurons and the connections between them, then the size of a deep brain stimulation implant should be the size of the room. So basically, trying to use this device to interact with those individual cells will be akin to trying to play Tchaikovsky's first piano concerto with fingers the size of a pickup truck. So you say that the resolution is not high enough and the device is too big. But hey, as engineers, we are really great at making things small. We have reduced the computer from the size of a building to the size of a pocket. So how come the strategies that worked so well for us for miniaturizing and scaling silicon-based electronic circuits do not work for us to connect to neural circuits? Okay, let's take a look. This is a silicon wafer. This is what's inside your iPhone. This is what all the modern electronics are based on. It's hard, it's brittle, it's sharp, it's very flat, it's smooth. It is really good for one thing, carrying currents and supporting voltages. Here is your brain. Put your two fists together. This is about the size of your brain. And its surface is really three-dimensional and developed. And on the inside, it's soft like a pudding. In fact, you can scoop it with a spoon. And within that soft pudding, there are billions of cells, not just neurons, that are constantly interacting with each other electrically, but also exchanging chemicals, also wiggling and pulling constantly. Brain is nothing like a silicon wafer. And if you think that's not enough, think about your arms and legs and the nerves inside them, or your spinal cord. Imagine what happens to them, what strains they experience every time you get into a downward dog in a yoga class, or simply get out of bed. So basically, those squishy environments are nothing like silicon wafer. And in order for us to connect to them, we would need new materials. These materials need to be able to be more squishy. They need to be able to match this mechanical complexity of neural circuits. But at the same time, they should be able to interact with the brain across all of its languages, not just electrical, but also chemical and also mechanical. How can we do this? How can we build such a device? I'll show you a prototype of a structure that does exactly that. What you're going to see next is a movie recorded with a device that can interact with the brain electrically. It records neural signals, neural voltages. Those are the black spikes that you see. It can supply a stimulus optically as the pulses of blue laser that you see on the screen. And it can infuse chemicals. You will see them as a pink rectangle. What you're going to see is neural activity triggered by those pulses, and then this neural activity is going to change. In fact, it's going to decrease in response to a chemical infused through the same structure. So you see the activity, this is the chemical, and the activity decreases. The reason why it decreases is because the chemical is an inhibitor. And then, when the brain naturally washes out this chemical, the activity comes back. And this is all done with the same structure. So we interacted with the brain across multiple modalities. We have interacted electrically, we have interacted chemically. What about mechanics? How do you think this device looks? Take a look at one of your hairs. Pick one up. The device that allowed us to interact with the brain across those modalities looks just like one of your hairs and feels just like one of your hairs. Imagine that at the tip of your hair, there are electrodes to record neural signals. There is a light guide to supply stimulation, and there are microscopic channels to infuse chemicals. What is this device? Of course, it's not a hair, it's a fiber. Many of you might be familiar with optical fibers that go underneath the Atlantic and Pacific. Those are glass cables that allow you to exchange information with your best friends in London and Tokyo. Our devices are made very similarly, except they're not glass. They're composed of many different materials, and those materials have different functionalities that allow us to speak languages of the brain. But really, this device feels like a hair, but does it actually match the mechanics of the brain? Does it leave a mark on the nervous system? What you see behind me is the brain slice. The bright dots are nuclei of cells. And what you see that there are a few holes inside the brain slice. One of them is left by our device, but others were there naturally. What are they? They're blood vessels. They're holes left by blood vessels that carry nutrients and oxygen to the brain. And it looks like we are tricking the brain into thinking that our device is a blood vessel and thus reducing its response.
Reducing its response.
As we are learning from biology to design the devices after the blueprints of the brain or after the blueprints of the blood vessels, maybe we can start hacking the brain. Without it ever noticing that it's being hacked.
Without it noticing that it's being hacked.
But whom am I kidding? Let's don't get ahead of ourselves. Which ones of you are ready to get this device implanted into your head? You should meet me after this, and I have a few forms for you to sign, and we are taking the tea right back to my lab. Those of you who are not, I don't blame you, because no matter how small, how multifunctional, how soft, and how flexible I make the device, we still have to implant it. We still have to drill holes in your brain. We still have to have wires and tethers. So ultimately, what's better than the minimally invasive neural interface is the interface that's non-invasive at all. Can we come up with the way to interact with the brain wirelessly and completely remotely? How can we do that? We'll have to look deeper into the brain, into the way it functions. Ultimately, what we are trying to do is to control voltages on neurons. And those voltages are controlled by concentrations of ions inside and outside of neurons. If we learn to control those concentrations of ions, we can control the brain.
Controlling the brain.
How can we do it? Well, let's imagine a neuron is a building. This building has walls. That's a neuronal membrane. Inside those walls, there are doors. Those are ion channels. They allow for ions to go in and out, for people to go in and out. One way for us to get into that building is to have the right key to the right door. The other way to get into a building is to pull a fire alarm. that would open fire escape doors, and then ions and people can move in and out. And this is exactly what I'm proposing to do. And those fire escape doors are the familiar ones. Imagine eating a habanero. That familiar sensation of burning pain on your tongue is precisely the same if you were to place your tongue directly on the stove. And the reason for it is because the ion channel inside the receptors on your tongue that responds to capsaicin, which is the hot spice of a habanero, is exactly the same ion channel that responds to heat. And this ion channel is not only present in your tongue, or it's also present in the neurons in your brain or across the entire nervous system. So basically, what I'm proposing to do to control the brain is to heat it up. We don't want that, that's fever. What we do want is to control specific groups of cells when we want them and to do whatever we need them to do. How can we do that? How can we deliver that heat stimulus where we need it deep in the brain? Remotely and wirelessly. Turns out, we humans are really transparent to magnetic fields. In fact, the fields with frequencies of hundreds of kilohertz and low amplitudes, we don't feel them at all.
So they're gonna heat you up with them.
Why am I telling you this?
Why?
Because we can synthesize magnetic nanoparticles. Those are essentially speckles of magnetic dust, about 1/5000th of your hair, and they can be dissolved in water and form a fluid that looks just like an espresso. But when we place them in a magnetic field that's variable, these particles undergo a process called hysteresis. We can think about it as a magnetic analog of friction. And through that process, they heat up. So now, imagine we can inject this espresso-looking fluid of particles into the brain and then apply the field to the entire subject, and only the groups of neurons that are surrounded by the particles will experience the heat and become activated, while everything else will stay intact. Sounds hard, right? Let me show you a movie. What you're going to see is neurons flashing in response to a magnetic field stimulus. In this picture, those flashes mean activity, mean firing action potentials. There will be no wires and no tethers. We have a quiet group of cells until the stimulus comes on. And now they start to respond to the stimulus.
Okay.
No wires, no tethers, no brain sockets, no tissue damage. Completely remote stimulation of a precise group of neurons.
All right, I'm gonna stop. I think what she's saying, and I could be wrong, is that she wants to advance it so that they could just give you something to drink and then they're gonna zap you remotely with electromagnetic waves and control you that way. So it's really no touch. You probably won't even know what's being done to you, as long as they could get that fluid injection in your body. All right, back to her.
So maybe.
Wait, hold on. And if you hear me talking, it's because I don't find this video boring, but if you are, if this is not your thing, you might find it boring. So I'm kind of like talking to kind of just show you like key points and things to pay attention to and kind of like bring you back to pay attention to the video, to what she's saying.
As we're starting to learn how to harness those natural fire escape mechanisms of our neurons, we can start to learn how to interface with the brain wirelessly and remotely. And maybe one day some heroic mind can pilot an avatar from the comfort of their tube. But how soon can we get there? As a field of brain-machine interfaces, we spent about 20 years. And in this 20 years, our machine has gone from Intel 486, you remember, right? To iPhone 6, while our interface from that machine to the brain stayed practically unchanged. Our desire to reduce the brain to the simplicity of silicon wafer is leading us in circles of tissue damage, side effects, and missed opportunities. So what can we do? What should we do? When can we start potentially reconnecting the spinal cords of paralyzed patients, or reattaching the limbs to amputees such that they can feel again, or treating Parkinson's and depression? Well, as citizens, we can encourage our regulatory bodies to speed up the approval of new technologies, obviously without sacrificing the safety. As patients, we could sign up for clinical trials that involve new technologies. But as engineers, we can embrace the complexity of the brain. And maybe one day we can play the piano of the nervous system without even ever touching its keys.
So, like I said, I enjoy that stuff. So to me, it's not boring, but I know to some people it might be boring. But that's a really great video. And I didn't even know that DBS, brain stimulation, deep brain stimulation, I didn't know that went back to the 1800s. So that's very interesting. That was like even way before. That's actually very interesting. 1800s, they were doing this. So yeah, go watch that video for yourself. I hope my little comments help make it more interesting. And if you're still confused about what she says, Google something, and watch some videos, and maybe you could understand a little bit more. You don't need to understand this whole thing or the engineering part like that. You just need to get the gist of it. All right, so that's that. So I watched, as I said before, the reason why I showed that video was to give you more information about, I mean, all these videos have the most interesting thing. Like, you saw her plead to the public to, talk to the legislators to help, speed up approval and experiment studies for these devices. So that's one way how the brain chip got here. And then, other stuff, but I'll digress because I already forgot what I was going to say. So anyway, so I watched an so I showed that video because I wanted to kind of give you a heads up on how this whole brain chip is going to go down, okay? Or at least what I think, my theory. So they're going to come out with this clunky version that's going to look like Delgado's, okay? And that's going to be the first brain chip. And then we're going to get 2G brain chip, and it's going to look more like hers, where it's going to be like fibers in your head and stuff. Then we're going to go 3G brain chips, which is going to be like you drink something and someone just zaps you and you can do it remotely. Okay, so it looks like that's the progress of it. This is so bizarre, I mean, if a few years from now, this is bizarre. Like a few years from now, maybe like a decade and stuff, someone's going to watch this video and they're going to be like, of course, she thinks she knows everything. But, this could really happen. This could be how it happens. But yeah, so I kind of wanted to show you how the brain chip probably will progress and how it's going to go from what we'll have now today as it's coming out as a new breakthrough technology. But you and I know better because we read the book. How the brain chip is gonna progress, and actually you see how it progressed, because when we did the book club, Delgado's book club, and if you didn't see the book club, it's called I think I called it Listening to something about the Psycho-Civilized Mind. Oh my god. Okay. I don't know what's going on with. Hold on. It says you joined from another device and have been removed from the conference. You have been removed from this conference because you joined on another device. You can only join the conference from one place at a time. So for some strange reason, someone is joining TalkShoe on another device and saying it's me or something like that. So TalkShoe is kicking me off. But what was I saying? So YouTube, I gotta get back on TalkShoe. I don't know. This is the stuff TIs make videos about, right? But you're seeing it live. I don't know, but I'm not jumping to any conclusions or anything like that. You could come to your own conclusion. I'm just going to get back on TalkShoe and try to, I'm just going to try to rejoin TalkShoe. All right. So yeah, so you could see how it'll progress from here. I'm not going to do two things at once. You two bear with me while I try to get back on TalkShoe, please. Let's see. How can I get back on? Let me close that and see if it'll let me back. I have one other person who's on there, and it says that she dialed in, and it keeps showing me a screen. And I'm saying this in case if you know what's happening. It shows me a screen with her face on it, and it says she, not her face, but just shows a screen as if she could come up and like do an interview, but nothing's coming in. And then it just closes out and says I dialed in from another. I don't know why it's doing that. It never did that before. And honestly, this is the first time where someone ever called on TalkShoe, and I saw a screen come up like that. So I don't know. All the time it's always been in chat. I don't know what's going on. So you joined from a different device. Yeah, it still tells me I joined from a different device. Okay, so let me try it a different way. I would keep going YouTube, but if I'm doing two things at once, let me see. Nope, it won't let me. All right. So if you are on TalkShoe now and I don't know what's going on, I'm not on TalkShoe. So if you're seeing or hearing someone on TalkShoe, it's not me. Because I've been kicked off of TalkShoe for joining in from, I've been removed from the conference because you joined from another device, which I didn't. Okay. And the last time this happened, it seemed like the person who joined from another device hung up. I'm trying to actually end the show, and then I'll just redo it. It seemed like the person who joined from the other device hung up, and I was able to join again. But this time they're sticking to it. All right, let me see. What time is it? I'm so sorry. This is, and I was so proud of myself because I was like, this is going to be a short show and everyone's going to be so happy because I wasn't going to do the whole 4 hours, but now I'm having all these technical difficulties and now I have to do the whole 4 hours. Well, hopefully not, right? Okay, let me try one more time. I'm going to try TalkShoe one more time before I, let's do shows. So I don't know, it appears that something is happening where somewhere, look, okay, so now it's letting me connect again. So something's going on with TalkShoe.
You are joining the online studio.
And that's my proof.
You are unmuted and can speak with the host.
Let's see. All right, so there it goes. So something's going on with TalkShoe. This one person comes on, and I'm not saying that this person is the cause of the problem or is trying to hack into whatever I'm doing on TalkShoe. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's just weird how that keeps happening. And this, so whoever you are, I'm not trying to blame you or anything like that. It's just that I don't know why this keeps happening. So I don't know, maybe, I don't know, whatever. Let's get back to the regularly scheduled program. All right, so I'm back on TalkShoe now. Sorry about that, YouTube. All right, so what was I saying? Oh my God. I don't remember what I was saying. Okay, yeah, so I think I was talking about how the brain chip was going to advance. Yeah, so yes, I don't remember what I was saying, but so let me go back to, so if you wonder what I'm reading my notes. So what happens is I just prepare and I make some notes that I want to, some talking points, and then I just read from there, because I got, and then that helps me. So I'm just gonna go back to my notes because I forgot what I was saying. All right, so I watched an interesting video on how AI is becoming more human, and AI, artificial intelligence, and an ethicist asked, why are we doing this? In other words, why do people want a robot who is more human? Where is this need coming from? She speculated that having an AI, artificial intelligence, an AI companion, is having the illusion of intimacy without really having anybody around. You can get the intimacy without the demands of intimacy. She said something like it could be an easy way out of learning how to develop healthy relationships. I didn't really question why all this technology was being developed until she brought it up. You know, when she said, why do we want this? I was like, hey, why are we doing this? You know? So why do people want external control of the brain? And that's something that's why I kept saying, she keeps saying we can control the brain, we can trick the brain. And it's just like, why do we want to do that? Why? What did the brain do to us, you know? And so, so why do people want external control of the brain? There are these beneficial things like helping people who are paralyzed or treating some illness, and you hear that a lot. And that's good, but let's not be naive. There's more to it. Then there is the cynical, they want to take over the world and control everyone. Okay, there's truth in that too. But not everyone developing these things are power hungry. There's a mixture of people in this. Yeah, there are the psychopaths and the power hungry people who want to use technology, who want to rule the world. But not everybody wants to rule the world. Don't believe the song, okay? Some people just want to help paralyze people. Some people want to use that helping paralyze people as an excuse to create devices to rule the world. And some people just sincerely want to help paralyze people or other people with illness. Some people just want to enhance their senses, like the people who want to be cyborg. So there's like a vast, you know, there's many reasons of why people could want this, you know? And there's very different, like people have different agendas, you know? And of course, the ones that you have to worry about are the people who want to use this to control everyone, you know? And that's a very valid concern, you know? It's not being cynical. I think it's naive to think, you know, that there aren't people who wouldn't want to use this for, you know, control purposes. I mean, everywhere you go, you have leaders in every country, right? Somebody wants to rule something. Unfortunately, some people just want to rule other people. I'm sad and I'm sorry. I'm sad that they exist, but they exist. Okay, we just got to admit it. Just admit it. Just admit it. You know, it's not about, I mean, you don't have to go to the point where you're going around and, you know, looking at everybody sideways, because not everybody's like that. Okay, I admit that there's evil people who want to rule the world and they're willing to do these disgusting, evil, sadistic stuff. And I'm researching those people. That's how I know. But there are people, you know, who are in it for good reasons. So there has to be a balance also. Don't get too cynical. Don't be too naive. So let's say beneficial things. That's good. Okay. Then there's There's truth in that. Okay. So is the answer definitely one or the other? Or is the answer in between? Could the answer be one in one situation and the other in another situation? Who knows? The general public isn't talking about it. That's why we don't know. No one's talking about it. I'm the only one talking about it. I'm not the only one talking about it, but you know, the general public, as part of the general public, there's not that much conversation about this, you know? A more widespread and diverse conversation about the upcoming behavioral technologies is desperately needed. So another thing is that there is almost an obsession with controlling the brain. You know, and it wasn't just her, the last speaker. As you're watching videos, people just want to control the brain, and they want to control, I think, you know, some people want to control other people's brains. And so it's like, what type of person is obsessed with controlling others? Psychopaths. You have to look at who is paying to have these devices developed. There is a surveillance economy also, and predicting human choices makes money. You know, so controlling human choices will make more money, and it all comes down to money and power for some people. You know, if they're not, yeah, I'll leave it at that. So those are some of the psychopaths' favorite topics: money and power. I was going to say not everyone who wants to, but it just doesn't make sense, so I'm not going to say it. All right. It doesn't make sense to me right now. I have to think about it a little bit. So anyway, psychopaths will run to this, and that makes it dangerous to not have the general public included in discussions and the development of technology that can have a negative impact on them. So that's one thing you have to be careful about. There is already an economy for this type of, for this device. There is already an economy for predicting and manipulating or controlling human choices, and kind of like monitoring human activity. there's already an economy for it, and it's like something that we're comfortable with. You know, advertisers, they do that, you know, but it's not like they're trying to run your life or steal you, as in the first video. Really, really go watch that first video. It's awesome. Not awesome in that, you know, that's going to happen, scary stuff, but his delivery is great. It just makes you want to watch it. So, and I'm not promoting the brain chip. Yeah, what was I saying? Another thing that is going around is that we want this. We want this, you want this, you want this. And the guy in the first video, he makes you think you want this. And it's like, why do we want this? So the previous videos show people who want to be cyborgs or part machine. They feel it enhances their senses. So there are people out there who want this. What about the majority? The ones who see the brain chip and something about it is scary. People like me, you know, do these people really want the new behavioral technology devices, or are they being told what they want? Are we being sold the idea that we want computers running our bodies? The ones who tell us we want this are almost always mentioning human errors or human flaws, you know, or human shortcomings. It's almost like a sly attack on human self-esteem. We're constantly being told that this is advancement. It is development. Sort of like Harry told Dorian in the picture of Dorian Gray. And if you don't know, during the last hour, we watched The Picture of Dorian Gray. The book is great too. I suggest you read the book if you want to get into more of what Harry did to Dorian. Okay, so the people who want to be cyborgs buy into this advancement reason. And some people just think it's freaking cool to be a cyborg. And we've been sold the idea that it's cool to be, you know, a cyborg. It sounds pretty cool, right? Except like we could really do it now, and now it's kind of scary, you know. Now that the commitment's there, now it's time to commit. You know, everyone's like getting cold feet. Now that it's about time to commit, everyone's getting cold feet. But like, ask me a couple of years ago when we couldn't do it, I'd be like, hell yeah. Ask me now, I'm like, oh, I don't know. Anyway, so one guy had a disability that being a cyborg helped fix. People who are paralyzed want this to help them regain their independence and physical functioning. To them, this is really an advancement, something that really, really can improve their lives. Yeah, if you're paralyzed, you don't want, you know, I was watching the videos about the paralyzed people who become cyborgs or who want, you know, the brain chip. You know, they want their independence back. They want their life back. They want control of their limbs back. That's fine, you know? I totally get that. But what about the rest of us who don't fall under these categories? You know, you have to ask if it would be an advancement for us to put machines in a healthy and fully functioning body. Could it cause complications? And on top of it, why are we being sold these things when we don't need them? You know, why? Why are you telling me that I need a brain chip? I don't know. I mean, that's one of the things, like, he made the brain, nothing against him, but he just made the brain sound so archaic. You know, our brains haven't changed since cave days, you know? So nature's like, what, nature's not moving fast enough for you? You know, obviously the brain is doing something right. We're still here. We've advanced. We've done things. But I don't know. Ever since I watched that video and she said, why do we want this? I've been thinking, like, why do we want this? And, you know, like I said, I understand it for the people who are paralyzed and stuff, but for someone who, you know, doesn't have any disabilities or health issues, why? Why would you drill a hole in your brain and put something there? You know, and I'm still working on it. I can't really think of a reason. I mean, it's not that I'm anti-brain chip. It's not for me. I wouldn't want it. But it's just like, I just want to know why. Why would it totally, I mean, but then there's the people who want to be cyborgs and enhance their senses. I guess that's why. I don't know. Whatever. So the next thing to look at is who is developing these things. Some nerds and scientists are psychopaths. Plain and simple. Okay? Some nerds and scientists are psychopaths. Okay, good. Some are only socially awkward. Not good that they are that, but it's just the reality of it. Okay, psychopaths are in every field. They're in medicine, they're in business, they're in church, they're in religion, they're everywhere. Okay, anywhere that they could get power and control from people, they're there. Science is a power field. You may not think it is. Science is a power field, you know. So not all nerds are as out. So some okay. Some nerds are only socially awkward, and not all nerds are as outgoing as I am. Some are painfully shy, and developing a hot robot for companionship may sound good to them. Like the ethicist said, you can have the illusion of intimacy and a relationship without all the demands of the real thing. They don't have to worry about people staring at them like they are some odd couple. If that happened, the hot robot would be the problem and not the nerd. Whereas if it was like a real life situation, people would be like, ew, you know, she's a little bit out of his league. But if a nerd's dating a robot, people are like, why are you dating a robot? Get a real girl, you know? So it's kind of like the nerd kind of like diverts that. And they don't have to worry about keeping her happy or that some other guy is going to steal him from her. You know, it's easier for a shy and homely nerd who wants a hot girlfriend. You get a, you know, a robot girlfriend and you can make her as hot as you want her. And that's just one example. But not all nerds or scientists are like that. You know, and I don't see any issues with that, really. I can't really think of anything that's wrong for someone who wants that, except what the ethicist says, which means, you know, are you making sure that you can have healthy relationships? You know, if you choose to have one. So if you choose to have a robot partner, and if it's not a long-term decision for you, you have to realize that once you stop having a robot lover or partner, you got to learn how to interact with real women or real men, or, you know, real people again. You know, that the relationship that you have with a robot who's completely submissive and under your control, you know, except they have some robots who interact back. But, you know, it's just like fantasy that a real person is not going to be that way. So if you do choose to, and like I said, I see no issues with it. If you choose to have a robot partner, realize that if you ever choose to have a relationship with a real person, it's going to be a different dynamic, and you have to get into that swing of things again, that this person is not under your control. They're not going to do everything you say, you know, they have feelings and needs too, and they're real, you know, and you have to, you know, the complications of a relationship. Okay. You got to deal with the real complications, the unexpected, the unknowns, the good times, the bad times of relationships. So that's something for you to consider too. If you take some time off from companionship with real people to robots, know that when you make the transition back, it's going to be a little bit different. So what is an issue with what is an issue for me, and I'm sorry, I really had to cough. That wasn't like a signal. What is an issue are the psychopathic ones who actually want to develop the brain chip, to control human hot girls' minds to be with him or her, or human hot guys' minds. So if you're developing the brain chip so that you could program some hot girl, a real hot girl, to want you when she really doesn't, I have an issue with that. Or if you're trying to program a really hot guy to want you when he doesn't, I have a problem with that. If you're trying to program a rich guy to want you when he really doesn't, because you want that money, you want his money, I have a problem with that, or her money, you know? So that's when that's when it's a problem, when you're developing a brain chip to take away other people's rights and freedoms. That's when it's a problem. So the hot girl and the nerd example is only one, the hot girl and the nerd example is only to illustrate the point, but it's not all about that. So it's not all about that. It's not all about developing a brain chip so you can control someone to be with you or be your friend or anything like that. So for some people it is, for some people it's not. I'm just giving an example, okay? So the point is that there are different agendas for devices like the brain chip. It's not all good and it's not all bad. However, there is a chance for it to do a lot of harm. So people must look at the bad and think of ways to prevent it. That's what I mean. Like, you don't have to be completely cynical, but the truth about it is that there are people who want this for bad reasons, and you can't just ignore it and hope the problem will go away. You got to deal with this. You know, you got to deal with the bad reasons, because it is going to impact you whether or not you like it. You could ignore it, but they're going to do what they want to do and spring it up on you. You know, so that's why you have to pay attention to the bad people, not because you're cynical and not because you believe everyone is bad and this brain chip is being made to control the world. Might be, you know, you're right. Some people do want it to control the world and control everybody in it. Yeah, there are some people who want to do that, but not everybody wants to do that. But because there is a chance, not even there's a chance, because there are people who want to do that. And they can do that. We have to pay attention to them, and we have to do something about it. You know, make sure they don't get out of line. You know, keep them in their place. You know, so that way good could come out of this and not just bad. So, however, there is a chance for it to do a lot of harm, so people must look at the bad and think of ways to prevent it. Delgado said years ago that his type of research will continue whether or not there is a public outcry, and he was right. It continued. Like, I don't care if you think I'm a conspiracy theorist who's crazy, she doesn't know what she's talking about. It continued, and I showed you it, okay? Deal with it, you know? So whether or not, you know, you wanted to, whether or not there was a public outcry, and the grandparents of America back then and the grandparents of America tried to shut it down way back then, it continued. And now we have to deal with that. They slowed it down, but it continued. So soon, the general public will be hearing about the brain chip, its benefits, and implementation. Many people are trying to ring the alarm. I'm not the only person. So it's time to recognize this as a hot topic, a pressing issue, and have open discussions instead of waiting to be told what to think about it or protesting when it's a bit too late. So the title of this live stream, part 1 and part 2, for all the complications that came through, is being made to control the world, and people are resistant to it. Yeah, there are some people who, you know, who do want to do that. So the title of this live stream is "The Brain Chip is Coming." The whole discussion has been about the upcoming brain chip. And I have a big announcement that some of you already know. Are you ready? The brain chip is here, and it's called Neuralink. And we're going to listen to a video about Neuralink, the brain chip. And if they cut me off again, because this is a very interesting episode, if this was staged by people who didn't want me to, for someone who didn't like my topic, I actually think it made it kind of exciting for me, you know, to be cut off and all these technical difficulties during like a very controversial topic. So thank you for the excitement. You added like thrill to my talk. You had a thrill, you know, made it more thrilling, you know, it kind of made me, I don't know, made it more exciting. Thank you. Let's see. So I'm going to bring up this video. If they cut me off, I'll just come back on again. Okay. And I'm going to give you the post, and we're going to listen to talk about the brain chip.
The Joe Rogan experience.
Fundamentally.
Well, let's talk about what you can talk about to what Neuralink is, because the last time you were here, we really couldn't discuss it. And then there was I guess a press release, something that sort of outlined. Yeah, sure. That happened quite a bit after the last time you were here. So what exactly is it? How do you do, what happens if someone ultimately does get a Neuralink installed? What will take place?
Well, for version 1 of the device, it would be it basically implanted in your skull. So, but it would be flush with your skull. So you basically take out a chunk of skull, put the Neuralink device in there. You put the electrode, you'd insert the electrode threads very carefully into the brain, and then you stitch it up, and you wouldn't even know that somebody has it. And so then it can interface basically anywhere anywhere in your brain. So it could be something that helps cure, say, eyesight, like returns your eyesight, even if you've like lost your optic nerve type of thing.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Hearing, obviously. I mean, pretty much anything that it could, in principle, fix almost anything that is wrong with the brain, and it could restore limb functionality. So if you've got interface into the motor cortex, and then an implant that's that's like a microcontroller in your muscle groups, you could then create a sort of a neural shunt that restores somebody who's a quadriplegic to full functionality, like they can walk around, be normal.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So
maybe slightly better.
Slightly better
over time. Yes.
You mean with future iterations?
Yeah. Like the $6 million man. Although these days that doesn't
That's
seem like
cheap.
much. Yeah. Yeah.
$6 billion man.
Yeah.
So the hole would be small. How big would the hole be that you have to drill and then replace with this piece? It's only one hole?
Well, yeah, the device we're working on right now is about an inch in diameter. And your skull's pretty thick, by the way. So skulls are.
Mine is, for sure.
It might actually literally be. I mean, if you're a big guy, your skull is actually fairly thick. Skull's is like 7 to 14 millimeters. So
that's probably a couple of inches.
A half inch, half inch thick skull ish. So So that's a fair bit of like we got quite a coconut going on there. It's not like some eggshell.
Oh yeah, I believe you.
So you basically implant the device.
And so it would be like a 1 inch square, or 1 inch in diameter.
Yeah,
so an inch circle, like a circular.
Yeah, I think like a smartwatch or something like that. Or
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you take this 1 inch diameter, like ice fishing, right? You ever go ice fishing?
No, but I'd like to.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's really fun.
Yeah.
So you basically take an auger and you drill through the surface of the ice.
Yeah.
And you create a small hole, and you can dunk your line in there. So this is like that. You're ice fishing on the top of your skull, and then you cork it.
Yeah, and you replace that, say 1 inch diameter piece of skull with this Neuralink device, and that has a battery and a Bluetooth and a inductive charger, and then you also got to insert the electrodes. So the electrodes are very carefully inserted with a robot that we developed that's very carefully putting in the electrodes and avoiding any veins or arteries, so it doesn't create trauma.
So through this 1 inch diameter device, electrodes be inserted, and they will find their way
like tiny wires, basically.
Tiny wires.
Tiny wires.
And they'll find their way to specific areas of the brain to stimulate?
No, you literally put them where they're supposed to go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can insert.
How long will these wires be?
I mean, they usually go in like, depending on where it is, like 2 or 3 millimeters.
So they just find the spots.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then, then you put the device in, and that gets that replaces the little piece of skull that was taken out, and then you stitch up the hole, and you just have a little scar, and that's it.
Will this be replaceable or reversible?
Yeah.
Like if someone can't take it anymore?
Yeah,
I'm too smart. I can't take it.
Yeah, you can totally take it out.
And what is besides restoring limb function and eyesight and hearing, which are all amazing, is there any cognitive benefits that you anticipate from something like this?
Yeah, I mean, you could for sure. I mean, basically, it's a generalized sort of thing for fixing any kind of brain injury. In principle, or if you've got like severe epilepsy or something like that, it could just sort of stop the epilepsy from occurring. Like it could detect it in real time and then fire a counter pulse and stop the epilepsy. I mean, there's a whole range of brain injuries. Like somebody gets a stroke, they could lose the ability to speak. That that could also be fixed. So if you get like stroke damage, or if you lose, say, muscle control over part of your face or something like that. I think, and then when you get old, you tend to, if you get like, Alzheimer's or something like that, then you lose memory, and this could help you with, restoring your memory, that kind of thing.
Restoring memory. And what is happening that's allowing it to do that? Like the wires, these small wires, are stimulating these areas of the brain, and then is it that the areas of the brain are they're losing some sort of electrical force? Like what is happening?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like think of it like a bunch of circuits, and there's some like circuits that are broken, and we can like fix those circuits, substitute for those circuits.
And so a specific frequency will go through this.
Yeah, just
a specific in that is the process figuring out how much or how little has to be, how much these areas of the brain have to be juiced up.
Yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of work to do. So when I say, we've got a shot at probably putting it in a person in, within a year, I think that's exactly what I mean. I think we have a chance of putting in someone and having them be healthy and restoring some functionality that they've lost.
The fear is that eventually you're gonna have to cut the whole top of someone's head off and put a new top with a whole bunch of wires if you want to get, the real turbocharged version, the P100D of brain stimulation.
I mean, ultimately, if you want to go with full AI symbiosis, you'll probably want to do something like that.
Symbiosis is a scary word when it comes to AI.
It's optional.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, once you enjoy the Dr. Manhattan lifestyle, once you become a god, it seems very, very unlikely you want to go back to being stupid again. I mean, you literally could fundamentally change the way human beings interface with each other.
Yes.
Yes.
You wouldn't need to talk.
I'm so scared of that, but so excited about it at the same time. Is that weird?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is one of the paths to, think like like AI is getting better and better. So now let's assume it's sort of like a benign AI scenario. Even in a benign scenario, we're kind of left behind. We're not along for the ride. We're just too dumb.
Right.
So how do you go along for the ride? So you can't beat him, join him. So, and we're already a cyborg to some degree, right? Because you've got your phone, you got your laptop,
glasses.
You got your electronic devices.
Yeah.
I mean, today, if your phone, if you don't bring your phone along, it's like you have missing limb syndrome. It's like it feels like something's really, really missing. So we're already partly partly a cyborg or an AI symbiote, essentially. It's just that the data rate to the electronics is slow. So especially output, like you're just going with your thumbs. I mean, like, what's your data rate? Maybe optimistically 100 bits per second. That's being generous.
This is what I was talking about.
And now the computer,
you're human. You're too slow.
At like 100 terabits. So certainly, gigabits are trivial at this point. So this is like.
I mean, this is nothing against anyone in the video or anything like that. I'm not saying that they're gang stalkers. I'm not saying that they are psychopaths trying to control people. So don't think that. Nothing against anyone personally in any of the videos. But that's what I'm talking about. Like the reason that I've seen across the board in all videos has been like, well, humans are, what's your data rate? You can't type any faster. A computer could type faster than you. What's your data processing rate? A computer could process data much quicker than you. Okay, well, guess what? Humans develop computers. So a human didn't make me. I made a computer. Well, not me, but machines didn't make man. Man made machine. So I think like that's one of the reasons that I've heard so far, and why it's like why it's shown as advancement. You can't keep up with the computers that humans can't keep up with the computers that they created. And okay, I'm going to say this quickly, then we're going to go back to this because I don't want to like mix my message with, the message in the video. So, and the thing is like the reason why, and I think one of the reasons why now humans have to be as fast or faster than the computers is because the computers are being made to become more human and they might take over. So now humans have to keep a step ahead of the things that they create. It's just, I feel like we created a problem, in a lot of cases, more than a solution, But, and then I feel like that's a selling point too, that every video, not just this video, that's the one thing I've been hearing across articles, across videos, is that humans are too slow. Human error, human flaws, human this. This is why we need to have the brain chips and all that stuff so that we could be more accurate, faster, blah, 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 blah. But back to that, that's my message, not the message in the video. Back to the video.
Yeah, basically, your computer could do things a million times faster. Or you're at a certain point, it's like the AI is like talking to a tree. Okay, it's just boring. You can talk to a tree. It's not very entertaining. So if you can solve the data rate issue, and especially output but input too, then you can improve the symbiosis that is already occurring between man and machine.
So you can improve it in when you said you won't have to talk to each other anymore. We used to joke around about that. I've joked around about that a million times in this podcast, that one day in the future, there's going to come a time where you can read each other's minds.
Yeah.
And
well,
you'll be able to interface with each other in some sort of a non-verbal, non-physical way, where you will transfer data back and forth to each other without having to actually use your mouth.
Yeah,
and make noises.
Yeah, exactly. So when you, like, what happens when let's say you've got some complex idea that you're trying to convey to somebody else, and how do you do that? Well, your brain spends a lot of effort compressing a complex concept into words, and there's a lot of loss, information loss that occurs when compressing a complex concept into words. And then you say those words are then interpreted, then they're decompressed by the person who is listening, and they will at best get a very incomplete understanding of what you're trying to convey. It's very difficult to convey a complex concept with precision, because you've got compression, decompression. You may not even have heard all the words correctly, and so communication is difficult. What we have here is a failure to communicate. Cool, Aunt Luke.
Yes, and there's a great movie.
Yeah, great movie.
And there's an interpretation factor too. Like you can choose to interpret certain series of words in different ways, and they're dependent upon tone, dependent upon social cues, even facial expressions, sarcasm. There's a lot of variables.
Sarcasm is difficult.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I've said is like that there could be potentially a universal language that's created through computers that particularly young kids would pick up very quickly. Like my kids do TikTok and all this jazz, and I don't know what they're doing. They just know how to do it, and they know how to do it really quickly. Like they learn really quickly, and they show me how to edit things. And it's, if you taught a child from first grade on how to use some new universal language, I mean, essentially like a Rosetta Stone, and something that's done that interprets your thoughts, and you can convey your thoughts with no room for interpretation, with clear, very clear, where you know what a person's saying and you can tell them what you're saying, and there's no need for noises, no need for mouth noises, no need for these sort of accepted ways that we've sort of evolved to make sounds that we all agree. We, through our cultural dictionary, and we agree, or certain, we could bypass all that.
Yeah, we can still do it for
fun,
sentimental reasons,
right? Like campfires.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You don't need campfires. You don't need to roast marshmallows. It's kind of fun.
Right.
So yeah, I think you would, in principle, you would be able to communicate very quickly and with far more precision ideas. And language would, not sure what would happen to language. You could probably, in a situation like this, that you would be able to just, it would be like, kind of like the Matrix. You want to speak a different language, no problem.
Right.
That's why it was to download the program.
Whew. Right. So at least for the first few iterations, we'll just be able to use, like, I know that Google has their some of their Pixel buds have the ability to interpret languages in real time. Like,
sure.
Yeah, you can hear it, and it'll play things back to you in whatever language you choose. So to be something along those lines.
Yeah.
For the first few iterations.
Well, the first few iterations are, I mean, what I'm talking about is like in the limit over time, you know, with a lot of development. The first few iterations, really in the first few versions, all we're going to be trying to do is solve their brain injuries. So it's like, don't worry that it's not going to sneak up on you. This will take a while.
How many years before you don't have to talk?
If the development continues to accelerate, then maybe like 5 years, 5 to 10 years.
That's quick. That's really quick.
That's the best case scenario.
No talking anymore in 5 years.
Best case scenario. But 10 years more like it.
I've always speculated that aliens could potentially be us in the future, because if you look at like the size of their heads and the fact that they have very little muscle and they don't use their mouth anymore, they have this tiny little. I mean, the archetypal alien that you see in like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, they're like, if you went from like Australopithecus or ancient hominid to us, what's the difference? Less hair, less muscle, bigger head, and then you just keep going. 1,000, 1,000,000, whatever year, or 5 years, whatever happens when Neuralink goes online, and then we slowly start to adapt to this new way of being, where we don't use our muscles anymore. We have this gigantic head. We can talk without words.
You could also save state. And
save state?
Save state, like save your brain state, like a save game in a video game.
That's creepy.
Whoa. like if you want to swap from Windows 95 to like you.
Probably a little bit than that, but yeah.
I think we are Windows 95 right now.
Yeah. From a future perspective, probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you could save state and restore that state into a biological being if you wanted to in the future. In principle, there's like nothing, like from a physics standpoint, that prevents this. Now, you'd be a little different, but then you're also a little different when you wake up in the morning from yesterday, and you're a little different. In fact, if you say like you 5 years ago versus you today, is quite a big difference.
Yes.
So you'd be substantially you. I mean, you'd certainly think you're you.
But the idea of saving
you would certainly think you're you,
and then transforming that into some sort of a biological state. Like you can hang out with 30-year-old you.
I mean, the possibilities are endless.
That's so weird.
I mean, just think like how your phone you can record videos on your phone. Like there's no way you could remember a video as accurately as your phone or a camera, could. So now if you've got like some version 10 Neuralink, whatever, far in the future, you could recall everything, but just like it's a movie, including all the entire sensory experience,
emotions, everything.
Remember that part
Oh,
and
play it back. Do you
and
think you'll be able to
you can edit it.
Edit it.
Yeah.
So you can change your past.
You could change what you think was your past. Yeah.
Well, so if you had like a
this
traumatic
whole thing
experience,
right now could be a replayed memory.
It could be.
Yeah.
It may be. What's the odds of this being a replayed memory? You got to guess. It's more than 50%.
There's no way to assign a probability with accuracy here.
Right, but roughly. If you just had just gut instinct.
Well, I don't have a Neuralink in my brain, so I'd say right now 0%. But at the point at which you do have a Neuralink, then it rises above 0%.
Mm. The idea that we're experiencing some sort of a preserved memory is, even though it's still the same, it's not comforting, right? For some reason, when people talk about simulation theory, they talk about the potential for this currently being a simulation. Even though your life might be wonderful, you might be in love, you might love your career, you might have great friends, but it's not comforting to know that this experience somehow or another doesn't exist in a material form that you can knock on.
Feels real, doesn't it?
Feels real, but if it's not, but the idea that it's not is for some strange reason disconcerting.
Well, yeah, I'm sure.
Remember that part too.
It should be disconcerting, because then if this is not real, what is?
Right.
But the there's that old sort of thought experiment of like, how do you know you're not a brain in a vat? Right now, here's the thing: you are a brain in a vat. Then that vat is your skull.
Yes.
And everything you see, feel, hear, everything, all your senses are electrical signals. Everything is an electrical signal to a brain in a vat, where the vat is your skull.
And all your hormones, all your neurotransmitters, all these things are drugs. Adrenaline's a drug. Dopamine's a drug. Sure. You're a drug factory. You're constantly changing your state with love and oxytocin and beauty.
Sure.
Changes your state. Great music changes your state.
Absolutely. And here's another sort of interesting idea, which is, because you can say, like, where did consciousness arise? Well, assuming you believe the belief in physics, which appears to be true, then the universe started off as basically quarks and leptons, and quickly became hydrogen and helium, lithium, like basically elements of the periodic table. But it was like mostly hydrogen, basically. And then over a long period of time, 13.8 billion years later, that hydrogen became sentient. So where along the way where is consciousness? What's the line of consciousness and not consciousness between hydrogen and here?
Right. When do we call it? When do we call it consciousness? Yeah. I was watching a video today that we played on a podcast earlier of a monkey riding a motorcycle down the street, jumps off the motorcycle and tries to steal a baby.
Yeah, so that one. It went viral.
What is that monkey conscious? It seems like it is. It seems like it had a plan. It was riding a fucking motorcycle and then jumped off the motorcycle to try to steal a baby. Seems pretty.
The one that just dragged baby down the street pretty far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems pretty conscious. Right?
There's definitely some degree of consciousness there.
Yeah, it's not a worm. It seems to be on another level. Yeah. And it's going to keep going. And that's the real concern when people think about the potential future versions of human beings, especially when you consider symbiotic relationship to artificial intelligence that will be unrecognizable, that one day we'll be so far removed from what this is. We'll look back on this the way we look back now on, simple organisms that we evolved from. And then it won't be that far in the future that we do have this view back.
Well, I hope consciousness propagates into the future and gets more sophisticated and complex, and that it understands the questions to ask about the universe.
Do you think that's the case? As a human being, as yourself, you're clearly trying to make conscious decisions to be a better version of you, right? This is the idea of like getting rid of your possessions and realizing that you're trying to, like, I don't like this. I will try to improve this. I would try to do a better version of the way I interface with reality. That this is always the way things are. If you're moving in some sort of a direction where you're trying to improve things, you're always going to move into this new place where you look back in the old place and go, I was doing it wrong back then. So this is an accelerated version of that. A super accelerated version of that.
I mean, you don't always improve, but you can aspire to improve. You can aspire to be less wrong.
Yeah.
I think you could. the tools of physics are very powerful. Like, just assume you're wrong and your goal is to be less wrong. I don't think you're gonna succeed every day in being less wrong, but you know, if you're gonna succeed in being less wrong, most of the time you're doing great.
That's a great way of putting it. Aspire to be less wrong. But then when, you know, people look back in nostalgia about simpler times, there's that too. It's very romantic and exciting to look back on campfires.
But you can still have a campfire.
Yes.
Yeah.
But will you appreciate it when you're a super nerd, when you connect it to the grid, you have some skull cap in place of the top of your head, and it's interfacing with the international language that the rest of the universe now enjoys communication with people.
Yeah, sure. I think so. Yeah, I like that part.
All right. That's all for today. See you in the Matrix. Just kidding. Kinda. Seriously, what did you think of that? This is happening in your lifetime. The most eerie part was when he said that you can have an experience that is in your head. Those things I was telling you, remember that? So the most eerie part was when he said that you can have an experience that is in your head and experience it as real. It reminded me of that scene from The Matrix where the traitor is eating dinner with the enemy and he says, I know the steak doesn't exist. I know that when I put it in my mouth, the Matrix is telling me I know this steak doesn't exist. I know that when I put it in my mouth, the Matrix is telling my brain that it is juicy and delicious. And after 9 years, you know what I realized? Ignorance is bliss. And then he like bites the steak or something like that. He said something like that. You can look at it. There's a clip in that. And then he eats the steak like it's the most delicious thing ever. And I never got how that could happen until now. When I saw that video, I was like, oh my gosh, you know, wow, that's the scene from The Matrix. And then it just all clicked like, yeah, like what he was saying. You could, when you're in, I guess you got to call it the Matrix now, don't you? So whatever this new world is that we're heading towards and whatever this internet world is that we're all, well, I'm not going to be connected to it unless, I don't know, all hell breaks loose and they have a war and force me to implant. But for the people who have the chip and they're connected to this internet world that is going to be like an alternate new universe. I don't even know what to call it. It's like this thing is gonna like go down, and you're gonna have to think of a name for it because it's coming, you know. So when the people who do have the brain chip get together and I'm gonna call it the Matrix. You have to call it the Matrix when they get to. Actually, you know, you can't call it the Matrix because supposedly we're in the Matrix right now, right? Matrix 2, okay, Reloaded. I don't know. So whenever like the people who do get the brain chip and they're all connected to this world, they're like sitting in, I don't like, this is amazing. I mean, the most amazing part about it for me is that it's really gonna happen. You know, it's like I'm not just sitting here. This is like stuff that like, let's say 10 years ago you're with your friends and, yeah, like in 2020 we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that, but this is like a few years down the line and it's really gonna happen and it's scary, you know. So like even though I'm sitting here and I'm talking to you about it, like, you know, like I would have back in 2000, it's just like it's so close that it kind of freaks me out like when I think about it. So like whenever people get like the brain chip and they're all connected in this world, you know, all the brain chippers are in the brain chip world. You could actually just sit there and think about eating a juicy steak, and then the brain chip internet is going to tell you how the steak tastes. And because you're connected, you could really have that experience, as he said, as if it were real. And with all the sensations and the emotions, that's what he said, right? That's amazing to me. Like you could really do that. So like it's amazing how life is imitating art now, you know? So now we're really going into that movie. So, and then another thing is from 1984. And in the book, so there's 1984, the movie, and then there's 1984, the book. As always, the book is better than the movie. It's for me. I've never seen a movie that's better than the book. So if you saw 1984, the movie, read the book. It's awesome. So in the book, the movie left out the part where the hero, he's not even a hero, he gets like, oh, sad book. Anyway, in the book, but not the movie, there's a part where the main character eats real sugar or something, and not the fake stuff Big Brother had been giving the public. And he's shocked at how good it tastes. Maybe Orwell, and George Orwell is the person who wrote 1984, knew that having a fake experience of real things was in the future. So some of today's technology was inconceivable during his time. So maybe he was predicting the same thing as the Matrix, but didn't think that it would be as fake as virtual, but didn't think it would be as fake as a virtual reality experience. So, you know, if you go back to George Orwell's time, and I think he was like around 50s, 60s, you know, he wasn't even thinking about what we're talking about today, right now. So to him, he's thinking, okay, we're going to have, you know, Big Brother's going to take over, and Big Brother's going to, only the people who are elite and rich are going to taste real sugar, real sugar. They're going to have real, I'm a vegetarian, so I want to say meat and I want to say milk, but I'm like, I don't eat that stuff, you know, but, you know, okay, let's just stick with sugar. Okay. They're going to have like real sugar, you know, and in his mind, it was just like, okay, they're going to do like, you know, Splenda or saccharin or something like that. So we're going to have the fake sugar, you know, the poor people are going to have the fake sugar, and then the elite are going to have the real sugar, you know? And so that's how he pictured it happening in his mind. But when I hear that, you know, and I parallel it to the Matrix, I'm like, okay, well, the reason it sounds very close to the Matrix in that scene where that guy's eating a steak, and it's a fake steak, it doesn't even exist. It's not even in form. It's just like a bunch of neurons firing. And he's saying, well, I know this steak is not real, but the Matrix is telling me that it's real. And he eats it and he enjoys it. So I feel like George Orwell was onto something, but he didn't, because the technology of today was just inconceivable back then. He didn't figure that it would be a brain chip in your head telling you that you're eating stuff that you're not eating and telling you how good it is. And they did predict a lot of stuff today. And I mean, that's not to put down the people back in the 50s or 60s or whatever, because they did predict a lot of today's stuff too. But he just couldn't conceive the part about having a fake, a real fake experience or a fake real experience. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? So using the brain chip, you can remember the whole sensory perception of eating a good meal just as if it were really happening. And that's scary as hell. You know, and what I'm wondering is, and the part that's really scary to me is, if everyone's living, like, let's say something happens or war breaks out and they're just like, oh, everyone's getting the brain chip, you know, oh, wow. Yeah, and they just like force you to get brain chip implants or whatever they're using at the time. Because remember, I told you what 3G brain chip. They're gonna make you just drink something, and so that was the last video with the female. She was talking about how she drank something, and that's one of the videos. Let me see which video. That was one of the videos I played earlier, and how she was going towards drinking something. Her research. Rethinking the brain-machine interface, how her research was going more towards like using liquid or chemicals to do the same thing as the brain chip. So so it's not invasive, you know. So you just drink something and then they could just zap you and control your brain. So I totally went off topic. I don't remember what I was saying, but so let's get back to this. So. The video, I did digress and I forgot what my point was. So I'm going to go back to my notes. So the video talked about what the future could be. And I said some time ago that when gang stalking is exposed and the gang stalkers are seen, it would be interesting because they consider themselves the people of the future. So if my TI talks are specifically for TIs, but I try to make it general enough so that the general audience could take a part of it. So yeah, if you're part of the general audience and you don't believe in gang stalking, you think TIs are crazy, you can still get something from this. Okay, I want to make it that way because the general audience is at risk too Okay, so I want them to be able to watch this. I don't care if you think I'm crazy. I don't think if you think I'm a conspiracy theorist. I don't care if you don't believe me, but I want you to watch this so that way you're more aware. I don't want you to be a sitting duck to these people, because I know for a fact, okay, that it's real. And I know for a fact that anyone could be a TI for any reason. And you don't have to believe me right now, but I just want the general audience to keep this at the back of their head so that if strange things start happening to you and you find yourself in a bad situation, you're not getting this for the first time, because a lot of TIs, they're blindsided by this. You don't know what's happening. You're like, what the heck is going on? The world's gone crazy, da 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 da. But if you're watching this and you don't believe me and stuff, and I hope you don't ever find yourself in a TI situation, but if for some strange reason you find yourself experiencing TI things, it's not going to hit you hard and fast. You're going to be like, oh, that's what she was talking about. Wait a minute, and then you could actually look and see if it really is what I was talking about or if it's something else. So even if you don't believe me, watch it and just remember a few things I said, just in case. But for TIs, and you've seen the gang stalkers, they think they're better than you. They laugh at you because you call yourself human. They think humans are lower than them. They think they're so freaking advanced. They think they know everything. They have everything, and they just have this whole thing down. They think they rule the freaking world. But, so they consider themselves the people of the future. The future is the gang stalkers. They're the prototype. That's where the gang stalkers want us to head, that's where gang stalker wants society to be. A place where the majority of the people aren't humans, but the majority of people are gang stalkers. And the situations that TIs are facing as a small group, it's going to be TIs and the general audience as TIs, as gang stalkers. So that's what they're going towards. They consider themselves the people of the future and more advanced than you, me, than anyone who's not a gang stalker or part of their little psychopathic network. Right? So they are living, or they have been living, in an environment similar to the one described in these videos. I'm sure like when TIs heard these people talk, they're like, hey, we've been talking about that and we've been describing that for years, and no one listened, and here it is. Like a lot of the things that TIs told people way back when are coming true. And a lot of things that the TIs are experiencing are very similar to what these people are describing. So the gang stalkers they think they're so advanced, and I don't know if you want to call them organized stalkers. There's so many names for them. I'm just going to call them gang stalkers. So they have access to an advanced technology with features that are very similar to the brain chip. So TIs have been tormented by this technology for years. So it is possible to study the future. Okay, the gang stalkers are supposedly the people of the future, and compare it to the present, if people would take TI seriously. So for the general audience, these gang stalkers, I don't know what's wrong with them. I have theories about what's wrong with them, okay? I can't really prove anything concretely right now, but they are the prototype. They are the complete takeover of a person. I think, and that's not and I don't want to say that, and people and when the truth comes out, gang stalkers are like, oh, I was programmed. I didn't know what I was doing. No. Some of them know exactly what they're doing and they enjoy it. Some of them, okay, as of now, on the information I have, there might be a small percentage of them who were unaware and who might be, programmed. But I think the vast majority of them, they know what they're doing. So, and that's where it gets tricky, because then, the ones who aren't probably programmed are going to try to get out of it by saying, oh yeah, well, we didn't know we're doing, yeah, BS. So I just want you to be aware of that. There might be, I don't know, I'm still researching that there might be a small percentage of these people who really are programmed and don't know. But I think most of them know exactly what they're doing, and they're doing this very happy because they're a bunch of psychopaths. But I don't want to go talk about them because I will go off. So it is possible to study the future people as they think of themselves and compare it to the present if people would take TI seriously. So their experience can shed light on so many unknowns of the brain chip and how it can impact humans in the future. As a researcher, I won't pass that up, but it would be nice if the rest of the world would start listening and learn so that some of the mistakes can be avoided. I, will, try to get the evidence, try to get the concrete proof, or as concrete as I can get it. And then I'm going to sit there and I'm going to compare these people of the future to what this brain chip is going to do. And because it seems like that's where we're headed, but in a more like advanced way. And I'll do that, you know, but it would be nice, you know, if you start listening, because this is impacting your life too. General audience. Okay, so the gang stalkers have been acting high and mighty for many years because they had this advanced technology that allowed them to do many of the things that the brain chip can do. So what does that mean? The brain chip seems to do the same things that the gang stalkers devices can do, except the brain chip can do it better and more efficiently. No street theater, stalking, gaslighting, and all the other stupid things needed. It seems that the gang stalkers think that humans are weak, or that they are superior to humans. Now humans have caught up and developed a better device than the gang stalkers have. Now TIs can look down on the gang stalkers because humans have a better technology than the gang stalkers, and it's only the first version. So humans could have this device, humans could have had this device, the same technologies as the gang stalkers, years ago, but that type of research was shut down because of the dangers it would cause, the dangers that TIs have been facing for years. It's no coincidence that the brain chip can do similar things to whatever it is, to whatever device that, it's no coincidence that the brain chip can do similar things to whatever is that device that the gang stalkers are using. The general public needs to start talking to the TIs. I said the new behavioral technology will be introduced soon as a disruptive technology with so many benefits. And if you watch the first video, okay, so what happened for people who just joined now, I showed a video, the first video. It was new brain interface technology. It's listed on the chat as the first video. I showed that, and then YouTube like blocked my live stream because of the some copyright claim. So what I had to do was I had to log off of YouTube and log back on, and that's why this is Brain Chip 2. So I don't know how much was seen during the Brain Chip 1. So if you watch that and it cuts off, that's what happened. And if you watch that video, it's a great video. This guy, like I said, he could sell ice to an Eskimo. He just makes the brain chip the most wonderful thing on earth. You know, he makes it sound so great. And if I didn't know what I know, I could see myself contemplating getting it. Okay. That's how good he is at it. And that's how it's going to be introduced. Like, this is great. You need to get this. You could do this. You could do that. Oh yeah. You got to listen to him. He's great. Even though he's talking about really scary stuff. So, and that's how it's going to be introduced, you know? And so I said that the new behavioral technology will be introduced soon as a disruptive technology with so many benefits. However, there's a lot of dangers that need to be addressed. I'm not going to get the brain chip, and I don't think anyone else should either. But that's not going to stop it. You know, there are benefits to some people, and I understand how a paralyzed person will want to get a brain chip, or a disabled person. But as a researcher who got to see what TIs have been going through, I experienced firsthand the dangers involved when this type of technology gets into the wrong hands or is misused. So let's get people to start talking about it and its implications so that at least most of the dangers can be addressed. And by talking about it, I'm talking about brain chips. Let's get people talking about the brain chip. Okay, because it's no longer a conspiracy theory. You're not a nut job if you say the brain chip is coming, because it's here. It's here. No one can really say, oh, you know, no one can really say anything now. It's here. The brain chip is here. You know, what are they going to say? You're crazy? Well, you're crazy. It's here. Okay, look it up. So we need to start getting people to talk about the brain chip, its implications, and all that stuff first and foremost. And then I think within that, you know, I'm still working on this whole this whole gang stalking is a conspiracy theory thing. So I don't know. Hopefully that will clear up soon and people will realize that it's real, but I can't say anything. So back to this. I am learning from history and what happened when research similar to Delgado's research received public outcry, and was assumed to be shut down. It continued secretly. It went underground, and it seemed that gang stalkers used a lot of that information to create a psychopath network that preys on innocent people. Delgado said that his type of research couldn't be stopped and would continue despite public outcry, and it did. The brain chip is here and will continue to develop despite the public outcry, but that shouldn't stop public outcry. But learning from history, this type of research needs watchdog groups, transparency, and constant public feedback. The general public doesn't have to sit back and watch this happen. They can and should get involved in the process. It wouldn't be ridiculous or crazy to have an independent behavioral technology or brain chip watchdog group right now, because the brain chip exists. It's being developed, it's being advanced. And the first video showed you where they want to take it. You know, the last video we watched showed that it's here. And he gives you an idea of where he wants to take it or where it's going. It's not something in the future, it's here. And the developers have spelled out some of its features and future advancements. Okay, so here's another article that I looked up. And I'm going to give you the link to it, and then I'm going to read some parts of it. Go back and read this article. It's a really good article. I'm just going to read parts of it, but you should definitely go and read this article. And let me do it on... Okay, it's called The Ethics of Brain-Computer Interfaces by Liam, L-I-A-M, Drew. Sorry if I mispronounced the name. So in the article, it says, commercial research is opaque, but scientists at social media platform Facebook are known to be pursuing brain reading techniques for use in headsets that would convert user brain activities into text. And neurotechnology companies such as Kernel in Los Angeles, California, and Neuralink, founded by Elon Musk in San Francisco, California, predict bidirectional coupling in which computers respond to people's brain activity and insert information into their neural circuitry. This work is being watched keenly by researchers in neuroethics, a subfield of bioethics that has emerged in the past 15 years to ensure that technologies that directly affect the brain are developed in an ethical manner. And quote, we don't want to be the watchdog of neuroscience to police how neurotechnology should be developed, says neuroethicist Marcelo Ianca. I might said the last name wrong, at the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Zurich. Instead, those in the field want to see ethics integrated into the initial design and development stages of technologies to maximize their benefit and to identify and minimize their potential harm. And that's essentially what I'm saying, whether to individuals or to wider society. And that's my concern. Although neuroethicists' priority is to optimize medical practice, their observations also shape the debate about the development of commercial neurotechnologies. So in a different, unquote, in a different video, I said that behavioral technology devices would be introduced as a disruptive technology offering some kind of convenience. The article mentioned that Facebook was pursuing brain reading techniques for use in headsets that would convert user brain activity into text. Facebook was also mentioned in the Surveillance Economy book. I'm not going after Facebook. I'm only trying to put the pieces of the puzzles together. So right now, the debate probably includes, and they mentioned before about debate about neuroscience and where it's going. So the debate that they're talking about probably includes academics, researchers, businesses, and scientists, the same way it did during Delgado's research, the same way it probably did during Delgado's research. The same thing is going to happen again, where once they get it right, they will introduce their new devices to the general public. And I know that they have learned from the past mistakes and fear a public outcry similar to the one before. They are going to use a different approach this time. And as of now, I think the new generation is going to eat it up and ask for more. You know, I think this new generation is going to be all for it. You know, America's grandparents said, no, we don't want this. Stop this MK Ultra stuff. We're not having it. But their grandkids or great grandkids are just going to be like, yeah, oh my gosh, I got the latest upgrade. This is so awesome. You know? And I think that's why an independent watchdog group that actually wants to be a watchdog group should be monitoring this and offer another perspective to these emerging technologies. I'm not saying that the watchdog group should constantly put down the research or be doomsday reporters. I think the watchdog groups should offer the general public cautious, rational, and informed feedback as to how the research can impact society now and in the future. Because, you know, as of now, because we still have freedom, because, you know, you and I who have experienced life as it is now, as our grandparents have, as our parents have, we know what life is like now. But kids recently, they grew up with a computer in their face. Okay. I didn't grow up with a computer in my face. Okay. I didn't have virtual reality, you know, and all this stuff. I didn't grow up with an iPhone or my whole music collection in an iPad. Okay, the new generation, they're used to computers. It's becoming a part of their life. So this transition, so when it comes out and they're like, yeah, you know what? You don't even have to hold it. You just think, and you just think about it, and you could turn your lights on. And I think they have that now. You could just, turn on your music just thinking about it. They're gonna be all for it. They are. They're gonna love it. And they're not even, and because they haven't really experienced life as the older generations or the past generation have. This is part of life for them. This is part of progress for them. You know, they're gonna go for it. And I don't know. It kind of makes me sad when I think about it. It's kind of depressing. Because you see it happening, and it's kind of scary because it's not that far away. This is not me in 2000 talking about 2020. This is me in 2020 talking about what's going to happen in a few years, probably less than a decade, you know? So, yeah, I think that, you know, someone needs to start talking to these kids. Like, you don't know what, you know, it's not just about what's happening now. Now it's great. You have your iPad, you have your iPod, but when someone's putting something in your brain and they could stimulate your brain and make you think what they want, that's a totally different field, but they don't get that. Or some of them won't. And we need to make them understand that as people, you know, who have this freedom right now, that what you accept might impact the future. So back to the article. So later on in the article, it talks about deep brain stimulation, or DBS, which is very similar to the brain chip. It says, quote, reports have surfaced about a minority of people who undergo DBS for Parkinson's disease becoming hypersexual or developing other impulse control issues. One person with chronic pain became deeply apathetic after DBS treatment. DBS is very effective, Gilbert says, to the point that it can distort patients' perceptions of themselves. Some people who received DBS for depression or obsessive compulsive disorder reported that their sense of agency had become confused. And then the person said, you just wonder how much is you? You just wonder how much is you anymore. Said one, how much of it is my thought pattern? How would I deal with this if I didn't have the stimulation system? You kind of feel artificial. So neuroethicists began to note the complex nature of the therapy's side effects. Some effects that might be described as personality changes are more problematic than others, says Meslin. So a crucial question is whether the person who is undergoing stimulation can reflect on how they have changed. Gilbert, for instance, describes a DBS patient who started to gamble compulsively, blowing his family's savings and seeming not to care. He could only understand how problematic, and this is important actually, he could only understand how problematic his behavior was when the stimulation was turned off. Such cases present serious questions about how the technology might affect a person's ability to give consent to be treated or for treatment to continue. If the person who is undergoing DBS is happy to continue should a concerned family member or doctor be able to overrule them. If someone other than the patient can terminate treatment against the patient's wishes, it implies that the technology degrades people's abilities to make decisions for themselves. It suggests that if a person thinks in a certain way only when the electrical current alters their brain activity, then those thoughts do not reflect an authentic self. And I guess that's what I was trying to get at. You know, it's one thing, and that's why we need to talk about it now and realize that what we decide now is going to impact the future. So getting a brain chip now because you want to think about, you know, you want to think about what song you're going to listen to and have it automatically played, you know, okay, so it's that simple now, but when it advances, you know, is someone going to be making decisions for you and your life, you know? And what about someone hacking your brain chip and taking over you? These are things that they need to think about. So back to the watchdog groups. The NIH, National Institutes of Health, has a neuroethics working group, and there is an international neuroethics committee. These were the closest things I could find to watchdog groups while doing a quick search. So for something that can change the lives of everyone, everywhere, there's not much involvement by the general public. If you are overwhelmed by the changes that the coronavirus brought in, wait until you see what devices like the brain chip does. Maybe the public can't stop it, but they can watch and make sure it develops as safely as, but they can watch, excuse me. Maybe the general public can't stop it, but they can watch and make sure it develops as safely for people as possible. So if you ask the grandparents of school-aged children today how different the world is from their time, they will probably tell you it is a different world. Some of the advice they would give, some of the advice they would have given wouldn't apply to today, wouldn't apply. Some of the advice they would have given wouldn't apply to today's world. However, there are things that remain consistent and they could advise on. Fast forward to the future. If you have kids and they have kids, can you imagine the world your grandkids will be living in? Things are moving along faster than I thought. And in about a decade, the world as we know it now will be gone. I mean, that's just the hard truth. This is like, that's the hard truth. Life as we know it now will probably be gone in 10 years unless something happens, unless there's some kind of interference. You know, and if you don't believe that, go back to February and fast forward to now. Within a few weeks, within a few months, how different are things now in June than they were back in February or before the shutdown? And how different will things be from now on? You know, so you got to really, really think about this. Things are moving along faster than I thought, and in about a decade, the world as we know it now will be gone. It will be a world that is different from any generations before it. The adults of today won't really be able to give much advice to the kids living in the new world. As you can see, education will change because they want to be able to download information into people's minds. Jobs will be different because AI will be doing a lot of the work. There will be robots who look human, and there will be humans who are partially robots. It's a bit scary, especially since there's a chance that some hacker can take over your brain chip and steal you from yourself, as the guy said in the first video. It is inconceivable now, but it will be a real concern for future generations. During the Bush administration, Vice President Cheney was concerned that terrorists would hack into his electronic pacemaker and kill him. His concern was real. So this is no longer science fiction. I personally thought it would be a gradual change, but after seeing how quick things change with the coronavirus, I'm not sure anymore. It wouldn't be right to have a future generation face tough decisions in a new world alone. And if the general public keeps avoiding the behavioral technology discussions, that's what's going to happen. The people in charge of these technologies will be dictating how everyone else lives. If the general public starts talking about it now, saying this is our world too, we should be included and have a say in this matter, then the future generations will know that they still have a voice and can still demand and protect their freedom. If we don't do that now, they're just going to go along. They're just going to go along with whatever they're told, waiting for the latest update, being sold. Excuse me. If we don't do that now, they are just going to go along with whatever they are told, waiting for the latest update, being sold an electronic convenience that they may pay for with their rights and freedom. As I said earlier, behavioral technology is moving along quicker than I expected. As you can see, it is no longer a conspiracy theory, but a real and valid concern. The next generation should be aware and be more involved because the impact these technologies will have on their environment, mind, and freedom. So the next generation should be aware and be more involved because of the impact these technologies will have on their environment, mind, body, and freedom. Some tech nerds asked their fellow tech nerds to be more conscientious of the technologies they are developing and the impact that will have on the future. I'm asking the general public to be more conscientious of the price they are willing to pay for convenience and what impact their blind acceptance of the emerging technologies will have on the future. People should start becoming more aware of their bodies and not take it for granted. The brain chip and similar technologies can be used to manipulate or hijack their senses and thoughts. Don't let the transition to behavioral technology come fast and hard like the coronavirus changes. Have a say in what the new normal will be. These are new territories to fight for human rights and individual freedom. The matter that I'm talking about now goes beyond targeted individuals and gang stalking. What I'm talking about now impacts everybody, general public. It impacts the whole world, impacts animals, impacts plants, impacts the whole world on where this is going. These are new territories to fight for human rights and individual freedom. We can help future generations by setting the precedent ourselves or have someone else set it for us. At this point in time, the general public can make those decisions or at least attempt to be part of the decision-making process. We might not be able to do that in a few years. So with that and all the excitement and thrill of me being kicked off YouTube, then kicked off TalkShoe because they're saying that I logged on with a different device and I can't do that, but you guys were here with me. You saw that I didn't log on with a different device. So with all the thrill and excitement, that would make a good TI video about how, but you saw it yourself, and raise all kinds of theories and stuff. So it was pretty exciting. I just didn't like the fact that it messed up my flow, but I don't know. I have to watch part 1 again to see when I was cut off. And but all the videos that I wanted to show you and would have showed, I listed, and I'll put those videos also in the description box. And I hope you'll watch those videos and do your own research and form your own opinions. I don't care if you agree with me or not. It's still a free country. You can say whatever you want, and but just express. I'm all depressed because it's real. It's real. I mean, like I said, I'm not in the 2000s talking about what's going to happen in 2020, 2050. This is stuff that's just around the corner. And we need to really think about. And it's depressing to think about what kind of world, if I had kids, what kind of world my kids would live in and what kind of world their kids will live in, and if you have kids, especially young kids, you're like, what's my baby's life going to be like in a few years, and what's their kids going to be like? It's scary, and I think we should do what, the grandparents in Delgado's time did, where we can't, learning from history, we know we can't shut it down. It's going to advance either way we, protest, but we can still protest. We could be part of the process. We could make sure that it develops properly. We could stay on top of it and say, you're not going to, take my baby's world away from them. You're not going to just take life away like that from people. And you're going to make sure that your technology does not invade you know, does not invade people's rights, individual rights and freedoms, and take over their bodies like there's some kind of robot. And no one should get this if they don't want it, you know. So we need to start talking about it now, or else it's going to spring up on us. As you know, like I say, compare life in February to life now in June. It could happen quick. So with that said, this lasted a bit longer because of all the technical difficulties. I'm trying to think of, should I do random talk, or you know what? I'm not going to do random talk because I have to go, I have to do something. But you could leave the comments in the description box. And I don't know what the next, if you have any comments, leave them in the description box and stuff. And then I don't know when the next TI hour is going to be. I don't know what I'm going to talk about, but I will post and let you know when it'll be on. And, you know, I really hope you guys do your own research or watch these videos and like make videos of your own about it, because I would love to know, you know, what you think and what you got out of this and everything, and, you know, what your opinion is about the issue and where do you think this is going. Like I said, I showed you some videos that you could get started on. I'm not looking to dominate the gang stalking issue. PLN is not looking to dominate the issue, be the king and queens of the issues, or be the know-it-all, be-it-all of the issues. Like PLN just wants to generate discussion, you know, and get the opinions out, the ideas out. So that way, with all that together, maybe we can get to the truth of the matter and what's really going on and how do we move forward and stuff like that. So yeah, if you guys want to make videos about this subject and, you know, piggyback off of it, that's fine. I would love to know what you think. So yeah, so I'm not going to do TI hours. You can leave your comments in the description, in the comments of this, in the comment section of this video. I can't say I read all of them because I have a lot to do. But I will try to read. I can't say those things. I'm sorry. I'm not a full-time YouTuber. This is not my career. You know, I do this to help you guys and put out information and try to help the world and stuff. So I can't really I can't be as dedicated like some YouTubers are, and I'm not like making fun of them. I think that's great. You know, they put out good content, but I can't say I'm going to read all of it. I'm trying to figure out how to do this. How about this? Okay. Yeah, just leave the comments. Yeah, because I feel bad that I'm not going to do random talk for you in case you want to keep this conversation going. But you know what? Make your videos. Leave a comment in the description box. Make your videos. Because I want to see your videos. So you could just do make your videos and title it Brain Chip something. You know, and maybe it'll come up on my recommendations, or if you want to. Oh, actually, you know what? Yeah, send me an email and let me know, and I'll watch it and see where you're going with that or whatever. All right, so that's it. Sorry I'm not doing random talk tonight, but I hope you got a lot out of this, general audience, NTIs alike, and I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. There's nothing I could do about that. And that's pretty much it. Have a good night. Thanks for watching.